Okay, so I want to talk about a deeper subject. This is kind of going off the cuff here, um, but I think it's important, and I hope you get something from it. Um, I really wanted to talk about what it means to be made in God's image. I don't know exactly, but in some capacity, I think it's really because we have children. Now that sounds crazy. It's not like children like animals have children. We have children like we communicate with children. We have an engagement and involvement with children. We teach them our values. Now, animals learn instincts, and those things are built into their DNA, built into their programming. We really shape and form their values right from the beginning. I think that the godly really understand that. Years ago, um, men and women used to think that children were an inheritance. In other words, the way they looked at children as an asset. So, for example, if you worked on a farm and you had multiple children, you had plenty of people to help you with the farm, and that was a great thing. So people had 10 children, and they were very successful with that. Now people see children as liabilities. Now that doesn't prevent people from having sex, of course, because obviously there's a biological imperative, um, like a biological drive, if it were. But we treat children nowadays like liabilities. And the Bible really talks about how children are an inheritance from God. So that's kind of where we're going with this, like where the world has chosen to push this way. They don't think of children are the most precious thing anything um, that can be created, or they're the most valuable thing. They are little bits of you. And we know that when the world has been infected with ideas of equal rights for women and homosexuality and all these, and abortion. See, the reason why liberals are so pro for abortion is because what really separates men and women, well, there are lots of things that separate men and women, but one of the biological imperatives is women having children. And if you separate that amazing ability, that superpower, then you basically make men. And in some ways, because everything about a woman screams having a baby, and there's nothing wrong with that. So all these things specifically do away with the idea that women are meant to have children, or that children are somehow important. We see them as liabilities, getting in the way of things. But what's funny is the same time, because we are now a debt-based society, this debt is actually passed on through generations. You think about Social Security, you think about all the welfare state programs that we have created, and they're not meant to be paid back. They're meant to pass along to your children. But we're not having children at replacement level. Why? Because we're encouraging women to be in the workforce. And the idea of headship, or it's the idea of like women being exactly the same and equal, is really ludicrous. Men and women have biological differences. We want different things, and there isn't anything wrong with that. Instead of appreciating our differences, we seem to train women to want to be like men and men to be like women. And because of this, we have this disconnection. It's funny because I was on JWFX today, and he was arguing about. I don't know how old the article was. He was arguing that about women not being treated differently than men, and I think people have a real problem too, with this, because women are different. That's what chivalry was about. Men went to war, they sacrificed themselves. That's what happened. Why? Because women make babies, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a superpower that we need. We need babies. That's what the most precious thing is babies. And then, it's hilarious that, going through the article, they said that, now this is controversial, but they talked about that there was some signs in the early 1900s of brain size, and they did several studies upon this, and they've never been disproven about brain capacity. But we can't bring them up because they're racist. Racist and sexist. That's the new word. We can't discuss things openly. And then you talk about sciences like IQ science, or the bell curve, and that really shows that men are both, on average, both the highest part of the IQ and the lowest part of IQ, which makes sense because there's a lot of really intelligent men, and there's a lot of men that are the lowest part of society, where women generally have the average IQ, generally 80s to 100, 90s to 110. Are there some rare exceptions in both men and women? Of course. But in general, what people don't talk about is that men generally want respect, inheritance, a legacy. That's why men generally go to war or sacrifice themselves, or they'll take risks to be, they want statues built out of them. Where women, they're more people oriented. What women generally want is security. Even in dating, it's quite interesting, that we just don't talk about the basics of it. Women hold women are the gatekeepers of sex, but men are the gatekeepers of fidelity. we're different, but we sing in concert, we sing in harmony. Does that mean that they're lesser or lower? No, it just means that we're different. We should appreciate our differences. I mean, men don't have that superpower of making babies. So it's strange that we see something so beautiful as something so terrible or detrimental. We also don't talk about, as a society or anything, how women are hypergamous. That's it's strange, whatever. And women generally marry up. So women are not going to go if, and this is a real problem because a woman CEO, they don't have much men that they're attracted to because they want a man to be a higher status. So you don't see many, CEOs of, Fortune 500 companies, women CEOs marrying the janitor. It just doesn't happen. However, just the opposite, because men are more attracted to women's fertility, you'll see a CEO of a Fortune 500 company marry a woman with no education, nothing, because she's beautiful. That's just how things are, and there's nothing wrong with it. So really, all these things are meant to manipulate us so that we don't have babies. That's the one thing that we need, and one thing we're not doing, because we see them as liabilities. So we say this all to say that like some things about JW culture, like the principle, like actually when I was I knew all this early on. We didn't know everything. But I knew all this, and when I left, I was thinking about what church to go to, because I really think that at some point there's some benefit to church and things like that. And I was thinking about something that really believes in gender roles, because really that is that's so important for the society to function. And I was looking at a Catholic SSPX at one point, because they do believe in gender roles. They're more traditional as far as this goes. I do say that there are some things in Catholicism that do appreciate the tradition, the heredity. That is nice. Unfortunately, and they're also the beautiful worship. That's wonderful about Catholics. Unfortunately, they do not. A lot of them are like Pharisees. They just make up their own rules and things like that. That's not really dealing with the Bible. So, that's a whole other situation. So if you're looking for a church, what I recommend is probably something non-denominational, who focuses on verse by verse. So that's something to consider. So I know there's a lot in here. but also want to say this, that I'm also bringing some huge concepts into the fold without giving a full, complete 100% explanation. And I'm not, if you want to have a longer conversation, or I'm more than willing to listen to that. But I'm just giving the ideas right now. I want to say this, that I do appreciate some of the Jehovah's Witnesses things, but they don't really follow through, and they don't really believe that, because the liberalism, which has affected all of mankind, which created this ethos that everybody's exactly the same and equal, which really stems from communism. That has infected the whole world. So when we talk about maybe how one world religion, I really kind of think that one world religion is the liberalism of this world. It's kind of a man-made religion. They don't have any specific leader, but they have ideas that they wholeheartedly believe, that doesn't really, it's hard to get into all the things about liberalism, but it is definitely a religion at this point. A religion without forgiveness, and a religion that basically has no function in society, because if it continues on, everyone will die out. So, anyways, those are some random thoughts I wanted to just share with you. I hope you got something from this, and I'll see you in the next one.